Hello and welcome to The Critique. Today we're looking at a transcript of a video commentary on the Jeffrey Epstein document release, specifically the allegations around Jay-Z, Weinstein, and Bill Gates, and this bigger question of public apathy.
Yeah, it's a huge topic, a really heavy one, and this draft, it goes for it, but I think it stumbles in a few key places.
It does. It feels like they're wrestling with a mountain of information. So I want to start there with that sheer volume, because you've got millions of documents, headlines everywhere, and right away I felt a little lost on what was actually real.
That's the core issue, isn't it? It's the hierarchy of evidence.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing a commentary on a quote-unquote data dump, your main job is to be the filter. And, in this piece, that filter gets clogged pretty fast.
Especially in that first segment about Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein.
Exactly. They're treating everything with the same gravity, even when the sources are just wildly different in quality.
Right. So they're looking at this one document, which is a raw tip line entry from 2019. It's just an anonymous call.
But the way they present it, it lands like it's a court transcript.
It does. And to be fair, they do verbally acknowledge it. If you read the text, they say it didn't come from personal records or law enforcement.
Yeah, they make that comparison to the Trump tip line call, which is a good one.
It's a good one. But here's the problem. The structure of how they deliver it totally undermines that disclaimer.
I think I know what you mean. They read all the graphic details first, right?
They read the most graphic parts first. The abduction, the drugging, waking up in the room.
Yeah. It's that whole horrifying picture with this really intense narrative pace. And only after the listener has visualized this whole crime scene do they sort of step back and say, oh, by the way, this was an unverified anonymous phone call.
It's that classic problem. You can't unring the bell.
You can't. You cannot unpaint that mental image.
By the time that disclaimer comes,
the emotional damage is done. The audience has already filed it away as a serious allegation, not as what it is, which is just, it's unverified noise.
So what's the fix? They have to talk about it, right? It's in the files.
Oh, they absolutely should talk about it, but they need to use signposting. You have to categorize the reliability of the information before you get to the sensational parts. The setup frames everything.
So what would that actually sound like, instead of just launching into reading the file?
It has to be explicit. Before reading a single word of that description, they need to say something like, okay, so what we're about to read is a raw intake form from an anonymous caller. This is not a police report, it has not been investigated, and it is not corroborated.
That changes everything. That completely changes how I hear the next 30 seconds.
It does. It gives the listener a filter. So now when I hear the graphic stuff, I'm listening with skepticism. I'm analyzing it as a raw lead, not gasping at some revealed crime.
And it protects them, too, from looking like they fell for something.
Mm-hmm. And they kind of run into the same issue with the William Barr timeline, don't they?
They do. There's that part where they mention a 2006 timeline and Barr being present. And in the draft, it just hangs there like a fact.
Like a fact. And then later, they talk about the CSI effect and how people expect perfect proof, but they don't apply that same skepticism to the Barr claim in the moment it's made.
Which is so dangerous, because if that one claim is easily debunked, the whole analysis gets tainted.
Exactly. If you present a shaky claim as solid and your audience figures it out, they start doubting everything else you say. They should have framed that mention immediately, Now, this note alleges William Barr was present, which is a massive claim that appears, nowhere else in these 3 million documents.
It's all about anchoring the listener.
It is. If everything's a bombshell, nothing is. And they end up contributing to the very apathy they're trying to critique.
That's a great point. If you can't trust the facts, you just tune out. And that lack of discipline really flows right into the second big issue we saw, which is the tone.
The tone. Oh man, this is the hardest part of doing this kind of personality-driven commentary on really dark subjects.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be yourselves, you want to be engaging, but you're talking about, human trafficking?
Yeah, and it felt like they were really struggling with that balance. They're reading this disturbing FBI report. It is heavy stuff. And then, just instantly, there's this pivot.
The cheers.
The cheer. One of them reads this horrific account and then just says, I wish I had alcohol in this. Cheers as always. And they get into the crisis party.
It gave me whiplash. I get it. The show probably has a brand, a vibe, this crisis party thing. I understand that. But you have to see it from a listener's perspective. You've just heard about drugging and waking up in a room with Weinstein.
It's a terrifying image.
And then 2 seconds later, it's clinking glasses and cheers. It just feels, I don't know, disjointed, insensitive even.
So is there a way to keep that brand identity without, disrespecting the subject?
I think so, yeah. But it requires what I'd call a buffer zone. You just can't slide directly from a description of assault into a drinking game. You need a bridge.
A pause.
A pause, or a serious verbal acknowledgement. Something to let the gravity land.
So instead of using the alcohol to escape the moment, you use the moment to justify the alcohol.
Exactly. Right now, it's horrific reading. Then boom, I wish I had alcohol. Way too fast. Imagine if they just said, wow, that is a harrowing account to read out loud. And then just pause. Let it sit there. That's incredibly heavy. Then if you must, you can say, this is exactly why we have these drinking rules on the show.
That little pause, that one sentence, it brings the humanity back into it.
It validates the victim's story before it centers the host's need for a drink. It's a small change, but it saves the whole segment, I think.
And it happens again with Bill Gates, doesn't it? The tonal shift. They go from this Epstein file dump straight into a joke about email.
Boomers love email. That's the line.
Yeah.
The number one thing you should take away from these Epstein files is that boomers love email.
Which, on its own, it's a funny observation.
It is. It's funny, but look where it is. They're setting up this argument that Epstein had blackmail on one of the most powerful people on the planet. And by immediately riffing on email etiquette, they just deflate all of that tension.
Yeah, it turns a story about systemic corruption into a stand-up bit about Microsoft Outlook.
Right. And my advice there is just cut it, or at least move it somewhere else. Don't let this setup for a blackmail allegation become a joke. It just signals to the audience that this isn't actually that serious.
And that tendency to drift really hurts the third point we wanted to make, which is the analysis of the Bill Gates stuff itself. I just felt like I was watching them get completely sidetracked.
It's the forest for the trees. The core allegation is shocking, right? Gates allegedly used Epstein to get medical advice or prescriptions to hide an STI. That's the story. That's the leverage.
But in the transcript, we spend so much time on other things.
We do. We get this long anecdote about someone's mom asking medical questions. We get a debate about the difference between syphilis and chlamydia. And this is the one that really got me, we get a full reenactment of a scene from Rosemary's Baby.
Oh my God, I honestly forgot what we were talking about during that part. They're role-playing the husband drugging the wife with pudding. Is daddy happy now?
You're such an ungrateful, spoiled brat. It just goes on and on.
And what was the point?
I don't know. It's vivid, I guess. But is the connection to the Bill Gates email ever really established? Or is it just, flavor text that spun out of control?
It feels like a creative writing exercise got dropped into the middle of an investigation.
That's what it is. It adds flavor, but zero nutritional value to the argument. By the time they're done doing the voices, the listener has completely forgotten we're supposed to be talking about Bill Gates. The momentum is just dead.
So the fix is just cut it?
Cut the Rosemary's Baby scene entirely. It doesn't help. And honestly, I'd say the same for the whole medical debate.
The orange juice thing?
Yeah, the orange juice thing. This long tangent about how he might have mixed antibiotics and orange juice to hide it. It sounds silly, like a cartoon plot. And because it sounds silly, it makes the actual, very serious allegations sound less credible.
It makes it sound like they're just making stuff up.
Right. Instead of focusing on the how was it pills, was it juice, they should focus on the why. Why would Bill Gates, a man with infinite resources, go to Jeffrey Epstein for a doctor?
Because of the secrecy.
The secrecy, the embarrassment, that's the story. The orange juice is a distraction. The power dynamic, that's what matters. They just need to trim all that fat and focus on the implications.
It's interesting because when you strip away the jokes and the tangents, the actual thesis of this piece is really dark and, frankly, pretty compelling, which brings us to the last critique, the conclusion.
This is where they really need to stick the landing. They introduce this concept of the black pill.
Right, which, in this context, is this idea of total apathy, that the public knows the elites are corrupt, the system is broken, but we all feel totally powerless.
They mention the CSI effect. Unless we have 4K video of a crime, nobody cares anymore.
One of them even says, I've blackpilled everybody on the fact that nothing's going to change. It's a really strong, cynical argument.
It's the strongest intellectual thread in the entire script. And then look at how they end it. They pivot from that grand theory of societal apathy to comparing billionaire wives.
Yeah, they start ranking Melinda Gates versus Mackenzie Bezos and Laurene Powell jobs.
Based on who gives to terrible causes and how woke they are, it just feels so petty. You have this massive structural anchor, and you trade it for what sounds like reality TV gossip.
It just dilutes the whole message. You leave thinking about which wife is more annoying, not about the complete failure of justice.
Exactly. The weakness is they just let the conversation dissolve. The suggestion is to explicitly circle back to the apathy arc, frame the conclusion with it.
So what does that look like? If we cut the woke wives bit, what goes there instead?
That hits so much harder.
And there's actually a detail in the draft they could use to bridge this. The part about Paula Heard.
Bill Gates' current girlfriend.
Right, but they treat it as tabloid gossip. Does she ask him about the rumors? Is she suspicious? But imagine if they framed her reaction as a microcosm of the public's reaction.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not, is she jealous? It's,
is she in denial? If she ignores it, it's because she, like everyone else, prefers the comfort of the status quo to the horror of the truth. She becomes a symbol of that black pill apathy. That's great. That elevates the entire conversation. It turns a relationship detail into a political point about denial.
and that's the discipline we've been talking about this whole time. Whether it's the evidence, the tone, the tangents, or the conclusion, it's all about discipline. When you're dealing with material this volatile, you have to be tight. If you're loose, you just give the audience an excuse to tune out.
And since their whole point is that people are already tuning out, they can't afford to feed that impulse.
Perfectly said. The raw material is there, the passion is there. They just need to put up some guardrails to make sure their message actually lands.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. A clear action plan for the writer. What are the 4 main takeaways here?
First, label the evidence. Before you read something graphic, state the source validity. Don't let a tip line call sound like a court verdict. You have to signpost it.
Second, watch the tone. Create that buffer zone between the abuse allegations and the casual banter. No cheersing right after reading about an abduction. Just respect the gravity of it.
Third,
Kill the tangents. Seriously, we don't need a Rosemary's Baby scene or an orange juice debate to understand blackmail. If it doesn't serve the core argument, it has to go.
and finally, the conclusion.
Stick the landing. Bring it back to that central thesis about public apathy. Don't let it drift into celebrity gossip. End on the black pill argument that you built the whole analysis around.
We would invite you to take these points, refine the script, and please submit the next version for review.
We would love to see how this evolves.
Absolutely. It's a story worth getting right.
That's it for this critique. Thanks for listening.